Ethan Cole was tired of war. He had seen cities burn, ships fall, and friends disappear into the cold dark of space. He wanted silence now, a place where no alarms screamed and no general shouted orders, so he came to an empty moon on the edge of a forgotten system, a place where even maps had no names. The land was covered with silver grass and blue trees that glowed faintly at night. Strange birds sang with crystal voices and rivers flowed like glass. It was beautiful and lonely, just like Ethan's heart. He landed his small shuttle near a valley and began building a cabin. One log at a time, every swing of his axe echoed through the still air. Every spark from his campfire felt like life returning to dead stars. He worked by day and slept beneath the alien constellations by night. Sometimes he looked up and whispered to himself, "This is peace, but peace never comes alone." Something was watching him from the forest. Eyes like twin stars shimmered behind the glowing trees. Following his every move, he felt it sometimes, a chill in the air, a presence that made the hair on his neck rise. He pretended not to notice. Instead, he kept working, cutting logs, shaping beams, singing soft earth tunes under his breath. He talked to himself to fill the silence, sometimes joking, sometimes whispering names from his past. Unknown to him, every word, every laugh, every sigh was being heard. Her name was Sarai. She belonged to a species older than the human empire. Her people once lived across this moon before the war pushed them deep into the shadows. They had seen human soldiers long ago, machines of war wrapped in metal and flame. Her mate had died fighting them, and her child had vanished when the bombardment began. Since that day, Sarai had hidden in the forest, heart hollow, eyes cold, and now, after many years, a human had returned. But this one was different. He came alone, without armor, without guns, only with tools and quiet songs he built, not destroyed. He planted flowers where humans once burned forests. He fed small creatures that came near his fire. Sarai watched him every night, unable to look away. There was warmth in his voice, something she had not felt in centuries. One evening, Ethan sat beside his half-built cabin. Staring at the stars, the wind carried the smell of alien flowers, and the forest hummed softly like a dream. He spoke aloud, voice calm and sad. "If someone is out there," he said, "I mean no harm. I just want to live quietly." The trees rustled, and somewhere behind them something moved. Ethan froze, hand on his tool belt, eyes scanning the dark. Then a branch cracked, soft but clear. He turned sharply, staring into the glowing forest. "Hello?" he whispered, his voice trembling a little. No answer came, only the faint shimmer of light between the trunks. He smiled nervously and exhaled. "Guess it's just the wind again," he said. But deep inside he knew it wasn't. From the shadows, Sarai watched him with wide, uncertain eyes. Her heart beat fast, her breath shaky. For the first time in ages, she felt something she thought was gone, curiosity mixed with fear and longing. She whispered in her own language, "Why are you here, human?" But her voice was lost in the night wind. The next morning, Ethan found something near his door, a small fruit glowing softly. Freshly picked from the forest, he looked around, confused. No tracks, no sounds, just the quiet hum of nature. He picked it up and smiled. "Thank you, whoever you are," he said softly. Then he placed a piece of dry bread on the same spot before walking away. That night, Sarai returned and found the offering. She stared at it for a long time, then took it gently, tears filling her eyes, and so began the silent exchange each morning. Ethan left food by the trees. Each night, something from the forest appeared in return. Flowers, fruit, or glowing stones. Neither spoke nor saw the other clearly, but both felt a strange warmth growing between them. The cabin rose slowly, log by log, wall by wall, and in the deep forest the lonely alien mother began to smile again. Ethan looked at his work one evening and whispered, "Almost done, old man, almost done." He turned his eyes upward, watching the stars glitter through the alien sky. Somewhere out there, Earth still spun, blue and bright. But this place, this silent moon, was his new beginning. He didn't know that his small wooden home had already become something more. To Sarai, it was the first light of hope after endless darkness. She watched him from afar as the night breeze moved gently through the trees. And for the first time in many lifetimes, she whispered a forgotten word. Sarai had lived in the shadows for years. Her people once ruled this moon before the human wars burned their skies. Now they hid deep in the glowing forests, afraid of the past that still haunted them. Every whisper of a human name brought silence. Every memory of their ships brought fear. But this human, Ethan, was not like the ones from the stories. He sang to the stars instead of cursing them. He built instead of breaking. And every night she watched him, unable to turn away. Sarai's heart was filled with confusion. She hated what his kind had done, but she couldn't hate him. Something about the way he looked at the stars reminded her of her late mate. He too used to sit outside their nest, humming softly while their child laughed under twin moons. That memory hurt, but when she heard Ethan's quiet songs, the pain became gentler, like an old scar touched by warmth. She started coming closer each night. At first she stayed far, hidden behind the glowing vines. Then she moved closer, watching his hands as he worked, his slow movements, his tired smile. Sometimes she found herself mimicking him, touching the air, as if she could feel what he felt. She didn't understand why she cared. Maybe it was the loneliness, maybe it was the fire in his eyes, the same fire that once gave her people hope. Ethan, too, began to notice signs, footprints near the fruit basket, strange shadows that moved when there was no wind. He didn't feel afraid anymore. Instead, he felt less alone. He started talking louder when he worked, telling stories of Earth and about oceans. Rain and snow. Sarai didn't know what snow was, but when he described it as soft, cold stars that fall from the sky, she smiled quietly. Sometimes she whispered the words after him, repeating them slowly, learning the human tongue piece by piece. Her people, however, began to notice her absence. They were survivors, living in hidden caverns beneath the forest. When she returned one night with glowing eyes full of emotion, one of the elders asked, "You went to the surface again, didn't you?" Sarai stayed silent. Her wings folding tight, the elder hissed, "The humans brought ruin once. They will do it again. Stay away, Sarai, or you will bring death to us all." But she could not promise that, because she had seen something different, something her people refused to see. Humanity without war. Humanity that could feel. That night she climbed the highest tree and looked toward the cabin. It stood strong now, a small warm light flickering inside. She could see Ethan sitting by the fire, staring at a small metal object in his hand, a photo. She couldn't see it clearly, but it showed a woman and a child, both smiling. Ethan's fingers trembled as he whispered, "I hope you're safe, wherever you are." Sarai's heart tightened, because in his pain she saw her own. Both had lost family, both had lost home. A strange feeling grew inside her chest, one that her kind had no word for. It wasn't pity and it wasn't love, it was something in between, a bridge forming between two broken hearts. That night when she returned to her hidden cave, she couldn't sleep. Her mind was full of his voice, his stories, and that quiet look in his eyes when he talked to the stars. She whispered to the empty darkness, "Maybe we are not so different." Days passed, and Ethan kept working. He added a small garden beside his cabin, planting seeds he had brought from Earth. He didn't know if they would grow here, but he tried anyway. Sarai watched him water them carefully, day after day, never giving up. Something about that act, of care, of creation, touched her deeply. She started leaving things that could help him. A tool made from alien metal, herbs that healed wounds, small crystals that glowed brighter when burned. Each morning Ethan found them and smiled, whispering, "Thanks, my invisible friend, but peace cannot stay forever." One night, Sarai returned to find two of her tribe members waiting for her. Their faces were cold, their weapons ready. The elder's voice came through the shadows. "You broke our law, Sarai. You watched the human." She lowered her head, silent. "You risk everything for a species that once destroyed the stars," the elder said. Sarai's voice shook as she replied, "This one is different. He is not a soldier. He is lost," the elder hissed. "And so are you." Before she could answer, a sound echoed through the forest, the faint hum of a power generator. The human's machine had come alive again, sending a soft vibration through the ground. The others flinched, retreating into the shadows. Sarai stood still, looking toward the cabin. Her heart raced, torn between her tribe's fear and her growing bond with the man who built beneath the stars. She turned away from the elders and whispered, "If you fear him, then you've forgotten what hope looks like." And with that, she disappeared into the glowing woods once more. The night wind followed her, carrying a soft human tune, a song Ethan hummed every evening before sleeping. And deep within her, for the first time in centuries, Sarai began to hum it too, quietly, tenderly, under the alien moonlight. The night sky turned dark that evening. The calm forest began to tremble as clouds gathered above the moon's surface. Lightning flashed across the alien heavens, painting the trees in silver and blue light. Ethan looked up and felt the air grow heavy. He could smell the coming storm. He hurried to his cabin, securing the walls and locking the door. Rain began to fall, but it was not water. It was acid, glowing faint green under the lightning. Each drop hissed when it touched the ground, eating into the soil and burning the leaves. Ethan had never seen a storm like this. His oxygen filters clicked weakly, his generator flickered. He whispered to himself, "Come on, stay alive. Just one more night." Outside, Sarai was already running through the forest. She knew these storms, they came once in many seasons, destroying anything exposed. She also knew the human's cabin would not survive without protection. Her people watched from the caves, whispering, "Let him die." He brought this on himself, but she couldn't. Not this time. Her heart beat fast, her mind screaming. Yet her feet kept moving toward the light in the valley. The storm roared like a living beast, winds ripped through the trees. Tearing branches and roots, Sarai spread her wings, shielding herself from the acid rain, her skin burning where drops touched. She pushed forward through pain and fear, until she saw it. The cabin, half buried under a fallen tree. Through the shattered window she saw him, unconscious, blood running down his forehead. Without thinking, she ran inside, her hands, long and glowing faintly, grabbed the beam and lifted it off his body. She dragged him toward the corner, her body shaking from the acid burns. The smell of smoke and poison filled the air. She covered the broken walls with her wings, creating a shield between him and death. Ethan coughed and opened his eyes slowly. The world spun around him, and then he saw her. A figure made of light and shadow, eyes deep as the night sky. For a moment he thought he was dreaming. "You," he whispered weakly. "You're real?" Sarai looked down at him, her voice soft but trembling. "Be still, human. You're hurt." He tried to move, but his ribs ached. She touched his shoulder gently, her skin warm, strange, alive. "Don't be afraid," she whispered. "I will not harm you." He stared at her in silence. Breathing hard, in his eyes there was no fear, only wonder. "You saved me," he said. Sarai looked away. "I broke my people's law for you." Lightning flashed again, showing her fully for the first time. Her skin was pale silver with faint glowing lines, her wings torn from years of hiding. Her face was both alien and heartbreakingly gentle. Ethan tried to sit up, but she pushed him down softly. "Rest," she said. "The storm will pass soon." He looked at her, his lips trembling into a weak smile. "You've been watching me, haven't you?" he asked. Sarai froze, her eyes wide. "I saw the fruit, the tools, the gifts," he continued, his voice fading. "Thank you." For a moment, she didn't speak, then she said quietly, "You build, you sing, you plant life in a place that forgot it. I had to help." Thunder rolled outside, shaking the ground. The cabin creaked but held together under her wings. Hours passed as they sat there, the only light coming from the glow of her body and the fading fire. Ethan's eyes closed again, exhaustion taking him. Sarai watched his chest rise and fall. She reached out slowly and brushed a lock of his hair from his forehead. His warmth surprised her, so fragile and yet alive. She whispered to herself, "So this is what it means, to care." When dawn came, the storm ended. The air smelled of wet soil and burned ozone. Sarai stepped outside first, her skin still marked from the acid burns. She raised her hand toward the pale sunlight and sighed in relief. Behind her, Ethan sat weakly by the door. He looked at her in the morning light and said softly, "You saved my life again, thank you." She turned, eyes shining like stars in tears. "Do not thank me, human. Just live." Ethan smiled faintly. Then, "Maybe you can tell me your name?" Sarai hesitated. The sound of her name felt heavy on her tongue. After a long silence, she whispered, "It's Sarai." He nodded slowly, repeating it, tasting the sound. "Sarai, beautiful." For the first time in many years, Sarai smiled. The fear faded a little, replaced by something warm. The alien widow and the lonely human sat together beneath a broken roof. Two lives from different worlds bound by a storm. And far in the forest, unseen eyes watched. The elders had seen everything, and they knew the law had been broken. The peace between species had been shattered by one act of kindness. But neither Sarai nor Ethan cared, for in that quiet morning after the storm, two lost hearts had finally found each other. The storm had passed, but its marks remained. Trees lay broken, rivers turned dark, and the forest smelled of smoke and ash. Ethan's cabin stood half destroyed. Walls cracked, roof torn apart. But inside that broken shelter, 2 lives had changed forever. Ethan moved slowly, his body weak but his eyes alive again. Sarai helped him stand, her movements gentle, her expression quiet and calm. He smiled at her as sunlight touched her silver skin. "You look like you belong to the light," he said softly. Sarai looked away, her voice low. "My people say light forgets those who walk with humans." He frowned. "Confused, you mean your people know about me?" She nodded. "They know, and they fear you." Ethan sighed. "Figures. Humans always leave scars behind." She looked at him then, eyes full of sadness. "You are not like the others. You build where they destroyed." That day, Ethan started repairing his cabin. He worked slower than before, his ribs still aching. But now he wasn't alone. Sarai gathered wood from the forest, carrying logs like feathers in her arms. She taught him how to mix alien clay to make the walls stronger. He showed her how to tie joints with rope instead of vines. They laughed when things went wrong, laughed when the roof fell twice for the first time in years. The cabin echoed with voices instead of silence. At night, they sat beside the fire. Ethan shared stories of Earth, of oceans so large they swallowed the horizon, of birds that could fly higher than clouds. Sarai listened, eyes wide like a child. She told him of her people's songs, of glowing lakes and nights when the sky itself danced with color. When she sang, the walls shimmered faintly, the air itself humming with alien melody. Ethan listened, spellbound, whispering, "It's beautiful." Sarai smiled. "It is called a song of memory. It keeps the past alive." Days turned into weeks. The cabin became something more than wood and stone. It became a bridge between worlds, a place where a human hand and an alien heart worked side by side. Sometimes Sarai caught herself watching him too long. The way his eyes softened when he smiled, the way he talked to the small creatures near the garden. And Ethan, too, began to notice how her presence made the forest feel alive again. Her laughter was rare, but when it came, even the wind seemed to pause to listen. But peace never lasts. One evening as the twin moons rose, Sarai's people came. Elders and warriors stepped out from the glowing trees. Their weapons humming with quiet power, Ethan froze, stepping in front of Sarai instinctively. The elder raised his hand and spoke in a cold voice. "You have broken our sacred law." "Sarai," she lowered her head. "I saved him. I could not let him die." "Then you have chosen the enemy," the elder said. Ethan looked between them, heart pounding. "I am no enemy. I just want to live." The elder's gaze turned to him, eyes burning. "You are a death worlder. Your kind brought ruin to our stars." Ethan clenched his fists. "That wasn't me, that wasn't this generation. We're just trying to survive," but the elder only sneered. "And you think survival gives you the right to claim what is not yours?" Sarai stepped forward, her voice trembling. "He claimed nothing, he only built a home. Something even we forgot how to do." The warriors hesitated. Uncertain, the elder turned to her with fury. "You speak like one of them." Ethan moved beside her then, his voice steady but firm. "Maybe she just sees what you refuse to see." "Enough," the elder hissed. "This place will be destroyed before his corruption spreads." He lifted his staff, energy glowing at its tip. Ethan stood his ground, pain forgotten. "If you want to destroy it, you'll have to go through me." Sarai's breath caught. Her eyes wide, the elder laughed bitterly. "You would die for a structure of wood and dirt?" Ethan's answer was quiet but powerful. "No, I die for what it means, a home." Sarai stepped beside him then, wings spreading wide, her voice strong. "Then you'll have to go through me too." The air grew heavy, silence falling between the two sides. The forest seemed to hold its breath for the first time in ages. An alien and a human stood together, not as enemies but as protectors. The elder's eyes softened slightly, but he did not lower his hand. "Do you truly believe this? This peace can last?" he asked bitterly. Sarai's voice broke but did not falter. "It must, or we will keep losing everything we love." The wind carried her words through the valley, through the broken trees, through the quiet stars above. At that moment, the cabin behind them flickered with light. The alien crystals in its walls began to glow, reacting to their emotions, their unity, their defiance. The forest shimmered faintly, as if the world itself listened. The warriors lowered their weapons slowly, confused by the strange energy in the air. Ethan placed his hand over his chest and whispered, "This place isn't just mine or yours, it belongs to both of us." Sarai looked at him, tears forming, her heart pounding with something she hadn't felt in centuries. Hope. The elder lowered his staff at last, eyes filled with uncertainty. You have chosen your fate, Sarai. May the stars have mercy. Then he turned and disappeared into the forest, his followers fading with him. When silence returned, Sarai fell to her knees, trembling. Ethan knelt beside her, holding her hand gently. You didn't have to do that, he said softly. She looked up, her voice a whisper. Yes, I did, because for the first time, I wanted to protect something again. The two sat quietly as the stars returned to the sky. The cabin behind them stood glowing faintly, no longer just a shelter but a symbol, the promise of a home, built by two lost souls who refused to be enemies. The forest was silent after the elders left. Only the sound of the wind moved between the glowing trees. Ethan and Sarai sat in the quiet, both breathing heavily, hearts still racing from what had happened. The cabin behind them glowed faintly, alive with light and warmth that looked fragile yet strong, a symbol of something that should not exist, peace between human and alien. Days passed and things seemed calm. Sarai stayed by Ethan's side, helping him repair what the storm had broken. They worked together without words, every gesture filled with quiet understanding. At night they sat by the fire, watching the stars together. Sarai often stared at the sky and whispered softly, Do you think the stars remember us? Ethan smiled gently. Maybe, or maybe they're just waiting for us to stop fighting long enough to notice them again. But peace never lasts long. One morning, a low rumble echoed across the horizon. Ethan looked up and froze. A small patrol ship entered the moon's atmosphere. Its lights were human, its engines familiar. Sarai's eyes widened, her voice tense. More of your kind, Ethan's heart pounded. They're not here for me, they're here for resources. Or maybe to claim this place. The ship landed near the valley, metallic feet crushing the grass beneath. Armed soldiers stepped out, scanning the area with sensors and drones. Their commander saw the cabin and frowned. Unregistered structure, likely hostile origin. Ethan stepped forward before they could fire. He raised his hands and shouted, Don't shoot! I'm human. The soldiers stopped, weapons still aimed. One of them spoke. Identify yourself. My name's Ethan Cole, he said, former engineer. I crashed here months ago. The commander glanced at the glowing cabin. You built this? Yes, Ethan said. But I didn't build it alone. Sarai stepped from behind the trees then. Her silver form caught the sunlight. Her wings spread wide, the soldiers gasped. Some raising their guns again, Ethan moved quickly, standing between them. No, stop. She's not the enemy. The commander's eyes hardened. That's an alien. The species that attacked our colonies. Ethan shook his head. That was war, this isn't. Look around. We're not fighting, we're rebuilding. Tension filled the air like static. Sarai's eyes met the commander's, and for a moment the world seemed to hold its breath. Then a soldier muttered, Orders are clear. Non-human life is to be contained or terminated. Ethan turned sharply. If you fire that weapon, you'll destroy the only real peace this galaxy has left. The soldier hesitated, looking at his commander. The commander's hand trembled slightly. Torn between duty and the truth before him, Ethan's voice grew stronger. We always talk about exploring, about bringing civilization, but maybe it's time we learn how to live with others instead of conquering them. Suddenly, the commander looked away, his voice quiet. You've changed, Cole? Ethan smiled faintly. Maybe I just remembered what being human really means. For a moment, the commander lowered his weapon, but then the scanners beeped, registering Sarai's energy as a threat. The soldier beside him panicked and fired. The blast hit the cabin, exploding in light and dust. Ethan shouted and ran toward Sarai, shielding her as debris fell. He took the full hit of a second blast across his back, collapsing to the ground. Sarai screamed, a sound that shook the trees and made the sky itself shimmer. She held him tightly, tears glowing as they fell onto his wounds. The soldiers froze, watching as her tears turned into light, wrapping around his body. The commander whispered, What is this? The energy spread from her tears into the ground. The broken cabin began to glow brighter. Beams repairing, the earth healing. The forest came alive, light spreading through every tree. Every leaf. Ethan opened his eyes weakly, whispering, Sarai, you're glowing. She smiled through her tears. It's the song of life. It listens to love. The soldiers lowered their weapons slowly, Watching the miracle unfold, the commander stepped back. Stunned, he looked at Ethan, his voice breaking. "You weren't lying." Ethan smiled faintly, his voice soft. "No, I was just building." Minutes later, the storm inside the sky cleared again. The ship powered down, and the soldiers stood silently before the glowing cabin. The commander saluted quietly, then turned to his crew. "Record this, and leave them be." As the ship lifted away, the valley returned to peace once more. Ethan lay back, weak but alive. His hand in Sarai's, she whispered. "You could have died," he smiled. "I would have, if it meant saving you." Sarai's tears fell again, this time warm with love. "You saved me long before today," she whispered. "When you taught me that home is not a place, but a feeling." Years passed, and their story became legend. Travelers spoke of a cabin beneath the stars, glowing with light that never faded, a place where human songs and alien lullabies mixed in the air, and those who entered left with hearts lighter and eyes brighter. They said that sometimes, when the night was quiet, you could still hear a man's soft voice whispering, "Home isn't where you come from, it's who you build it with." And above that silent moon, where one man built his cabin log by log, and one alien mother found her family again, the stars themselves seemed to shine a little brighter, as if remembering the day humanity and the galaxy finally understood each other.